start this thesis presentation, we'll be having our opening prayer. Okay, let us all remember that we are in the holy presence of the Lord as we pray. So let us recite the silent prayer. I will continue, O my God, to do all my actions for the love of you. Saint John Baptist de La Salle, pray for us. Leave Jesus in our hearts forever. So to start our thesis presentation, let's understand the COVID-19 in the Philippines, which is the root cause of the idea, okay, of our thesis project today. So according to Inquirer.net 2022, as of January 15, 2022, approximately more than 3.2 million people had been confirmed as infected with the COVID-19 virus in the Philippines. So as of January 15, 2022, we have new confirmed cases of almost 40,000, specifically 39,004 cases from Manila, okay, which makes Metro Manila as the top region to post the highest number of new cases at every day, okay, and then followed by Region 4A Calabarzon, where our university, the La Salle University Das Marinas, is located, okay, marking a positivity rate of almost 50%, specifically 47.1% in the whole Philippines. So let us understand what is coronavirus or COVID-19.
According to the World Health Organization, COVID-19 is an infection caused by a new strain of coronavirus. Thus, it is an acronym for coronavirus disease 2019 or COVID-19, with a former name of the virus 2019 nCoV or 2019 novel coronavirus. Thus, a new strain of coronavirus is discovered.
So now, to better understand the COVID-19 impact in the Philippines, we cannot eradicate the fact that COVID-19 has negatively impact the Philippines in a lot of aspects. So let's consider economical recession, unstoppable lockdowns, state of calamity, travel bans affecting international negotiations and tourism revenues, loss of jobs and lives, which is the most severe effect of the COVID-19 in the Philippines. And we also experience healthcare system breakdown, educational system burdens, okay, that contributed to the struggles of the students as well as the professors and institutions in the Philippines, increase in debt of the Philippine government, resulting to billions of debt in the international banks. And of course, we cannot eliminate the psychological impact to the Filipinos. The very question is, what can we do to prevent coronavirus? Of course, we can stay at home. We can also wear our mask. Okay, we can also observe social distancing, and we can avoid crowds. But the real question is, we can do a lot, of course, but in simplest ways, what do we got? We always hear the notion prevention is better than cure. And one of the simplest but the greatest way that we can do to stop or reduce the pandemic or the virus transmission is our hand hygiene. So let us understand what is hand washing.
Hand washing, the definition from Merriam-Webster, hand washing is a practice that reduces the presence of pathogens, or in layman's term, also known as germs, that can commonly seen in our hands. So, in order to reduce the risk of illness transmission among other people, such as the patients and healthcare professionals, we need a proper hand cleanliness. So, as you can see in the picture on the right side, This illustrates the steps on how to perform the proper hand washing. So, next, what is the problem?
Okay, so with that on our mind, the researchers and the proponents introduced a thesis project entitled Controller System-Based Hand Disinfection Automation Machine. Okay, with our research proponents, yours truly, Kasubuan Enrique S.
Alvaro Jose II,
Fabian Jimweleyan,
And I'm Hapin Mary Angel.
For BTE 41 and 42, with our research instructor, Engineer Jose Rizalde de Armas. And now we'll be discussing the background of the study to further explain what is up with our thesis project.
So let's proceed with the background of the study to provide a little context about the research. Since the beginning of pandemic, hand washing became an essential part of our lives. It is important that we always practice good hand hygiene to mitigate the spread of the virus. But this doesn't mean that this is the only way to fight the spread of the virus. So, disinfecting of hands is not the only way to disinfect our hands with the use of water and soap. So, um, not every time water and soap is present, especially when you are in a public setup, like when we are in our school entrances or in hallways. Water supply and soaps are not commonly available there. So this is where automated hand disinfection machine are needed. So as you can see on the picture in the right is an example of an automated hand disinfection machine. So using this and having a good hand hygiene, it reduces the possibility of human contact and interaction.
So for this one, this is idea from the previous researches of Chowdhury and De Wick on 2020, who's also designs hand washing station using IoT technology or Internet of Things, which dispenses hand sanitizing liquid or hand disinfectant by generating spray mist to lessen the liquids being wasted. Were inspiring since hand washing requires a lot of water. By this technology, it reduces the use of water and soap, and it can be readily available anytime, anywhere.
For the statement of the problem, as you can see in the figure on the right side, this is a hand disinfection machine, which are commonly connected to a power source. So the problem is having it connected to a cord limits the freedom to move because it needs to be close to a power source. So another problem is that you may have cord related accident. So the team or we the researchers decided that a battery powered disinfection machine is a better solution. Another problem related to disinfections is that individuals commonly doesn't have enough hand disinfection solution use. So, according to CDC or Centers for Disease Control and Prevention, it is important that using alcohol-based sanitizer, an individual should put enough sanitizer in their hands to cover all surfaces. But this is where we are not aware on whether how much or how less do we need to have in our hands to be totally free from viruses or germs.
Now, for the objectives of the study, to be discussed by Yanni.
So, for the objectives of the study, the researchers aim to design a battery operated hand disinfectant dispenser that can regulate disinfectant within acceptable range, volume, or the amount of disinfectant to be dispensed. Also, the researchers focus to make and construct a working circuit that automates hand disinfection. And lastly, the researchers aim to design and build an actual project prototype that will function properly to meet acceptable number of successful tests.
Now, for the
Next,
significant. Go ahead.
next is the significance of the study that shows the importance of our research and the probable benefactor of the study. First one is to benefit from this research are its users or an individual. This would make the disinfection of hands easier using an automated hand disinfection machine. Then comes the owner of a business that seeks new product to promote their business. Also, by using and prioritizing sanitation and cleanliness in the workplace with the use of hand disinfection machines would lead to good reputation of their organization. Hospitals are one of the most who would benefit from this study. It is essential in this setting and workplace that we prevent and minimize the spread of virus. Hospitals are known to be a high-risk place prone for infection. Then, every person from the hospital would also benefit from the study. Another one are the researchers would benefit from this study as they would apply their knowledge and abilities in electronics relating to this study. And lastly are the future researchers. They can use this study as a reference to their thesis paper. So
Now,
those are the ones that we will be benefiting or that will seem to relate to this study.
so now for the scope of our study, uh, the project focused on creating a hand disinfection machine with the applications of controller system and automation, which centers on mitigation of human transmissions of germs, okay, bacteria, virus that can be passed through close contact rapidly with infected hands. So second, the researchers will be focusing on a university-based setup wherein they will be conducting tests with a prototype within the premises of their school, namely the Rizal University Das Marinas, if the premises and if the situations will allow. So next one, although it is a possibility that the machine will be a great help to be used in public areas where people are massive, it is still advisable to start first within the school premises, okay, and preferably in places most visited by the people. Next one, the machine is only intended for hand disinfection, but does not necessarily mean killing virus or COVID virus in the body. Okay, will not be limiting the scope by that. So this is because the effectiveness and efficiency of the hand disinfection machine in killing viruses will primarily depend on the kind of disinfectant or liquid, okay, used for the disinfection mechanism.
In terms of limitations of the study, The current pandemic crisis happening worldwide will be the biggest challenge since there is border controls implied or implemented within within the country, thus creating limitations for the study. The current condition, which may lead to uncontrollable circumstances, can hinder researchers to easily gather the needed materials such as electronic components and devices needed for the construction of the prototype. As I said earlier, this uh, is caused by the strict border controls within the country and within the borders of other countries, thus explaining the third limitation. Global restrictions can hamper the time duration for the components to be delivered, thus could affect the promptness of the circuit construction as well as the prototype assembly. So, proceeding to the conceptual framework for the input process or for the input, hardware components are under here the control program and system and the related researches. These are the components that will be considered in creating our thesis project. For in terms of the process, this will be the hardware development, analysis and diagnostic, the system architecture to be considered, and the test and evaluation on how successful this prototype works. And for the output, this will become the disinfection machine and the recommendations of researchers.
For the definition of terms, first is the COVID-19. So according to World Health Organization, COVID-19 is an infection caused by a strain of virus. CO is an acronym for corona. VI is an acronym for virus. And D is an acronym for disease. This sickness was attributed to as the 2019 novel coronavirus, or also known as 2019 nCoV. Second is the virus. According to Merriam-Webster, virus is any of a variant group of infectious microorganisms that are tagged as creatures that can only develop and reproduce in living cells. And it causes a wide range of catastrophic diseases in humans, animals, and also plants. Next is the disinfection. According to Merriam-Webster, it is the use of a disinfectant to destroy, inactivate, or significantly reduce the concentration of harmful agents such as the bacteria, viruses, and fungi. Next is the disinfectant. According also to Merriam-Webster, this is a chemical agent used to destroy, inactivate, or decrease the amount of pathogens such as bacteria, viruses, and fungi on hand surfaces and in water such as drinking water or wastewater. Next is the control system. So we have many definitions here, but based on tech target, a control system basically is a group of a mechanical or electrical components that is used to control loops to govern the behavior of other devices or systems. Next is the controller. So according to Trey Rice, inside a control loop, a controller is a comparator that receives an input signal from a calculated process variable, compares it to a given control point value, which is the set point. And it also measures the number of output signals needed by the final control factor to provide corrective action. Next is the hand washing. According also to Merriam-Webster, it is a practice that reduces the presence of pathogens on the hands considerably in order to reduce the risk of illness transmission among patients and healthcare professionals. Proper cleanliness is essential or important. So, for the alcohol-based hand rubs, it ranges from 60% to 95% alcohol. Soap and water hand washing are the two common hand hygiene procedures. Next is the fogging machine. So the fogging machine often known as a fogger, it is a multi-purpose piece of equipment that sprays a chemical solution for pests or smell management with a tiny spray. It may also be used for cleaning, disinfecting, and preventing the growth of insects, germs, and viruses, among other things. Lastly is the automation. Automation is a method that entails carrying out the process using pre-programmed orders and automatic feedback control to guarantee that the instructions are carried out correctly. The end result is a system that can function without the need for human interaction. So these are the definition of terms of our project. Next.
Okay, so for our review of related literature, let us understand the effect of the COVID-19, which lead the proponents to come up with a possible project that will reduce the transmission of the virus, that can help our country to recover from the problem or from the struggles that it is experiencing right now. So, according to Frontiers Public Health 2021, COVID-19 pandemic has caused direct impacts on income due to premature deaths, workplace absenteeism, and reduction in productivity, and has created a negative supply shock. Uh, as you can see here in our graphs, okay, from our source, you can see here that the COVID-19 virus graph is uh, unstoppably rising, okay? It's exponential, and it continuously arises because of the new variants that is arising every period, okay? Now we have our Omicron variants, and we also have a lot of variants from different countries, which proves that the virus mutates unstoppably and continuously. That's why it is it is really needed, and it is really a must for people to keep disinfecting their hands and to keep exercising their hand hygiene. So as the COVID-19 virus increases and as the variant continuously mutates, the economic the economic effect has been worse. Okay, the stock market has been down, and recession is already experienced by a lot of countries. Okay, including the powerful estates like the United States of America. So for the review of related literature, let's just have this quick, okay, as a summary.
So for the review of related literature, let's proceed to, according to Mayo Clinic in 2021, which is entitled Coronavirus Disease 2019 or COVID-19 Causes. So the findings for this study is that it shows that it spreads mainly from person to person among those in close contact within about 6 feet or 2 meters. So recommendation from this one is to avoid close contact within 2 meters. Then avoid touching your eyes, nose, and mouth. So also, the content of this study is that the virus spreads by respiratory droplets released when someone with the virus cough, sneezes, breathes, sing, or talks. So this spread of the virus is commonly from the droplets in the mouth. So then another study by Mayo Clinic in 2021, which have the same title, is that it can also spread if a person touches a surface or object with the virus on it. So as we can see that the virus stays for a particular time within a specific surfaces. So it is recommended to wash our hands often with soap and water for at least 20 seconds or use an alcohol-based hand sanitizer that contains at least 60% alcohol. So let's proceed to another related literature. So next one is the effectiveness of hand hygiene. So according to the statement of Dr. Poonam Ketrapal Singh, Regional Director of World Health Organization in Southeast Asia region in 2021, which is entitled Hand Washing, an Effective Tool to Prevent COVID-19 and Other Diseases. So the findings shows that promoting hand hygiene at all levels of healthcare is also critical. So this one says that hand hygiene is very critical when it comes to the healthcare because most of the diseases comes from poor hygiene. The next one is hand washing is also one of the key corners of COVID-19 prevention. So it is already um, repeated on television or in the news that hand washing also helps in preventing the spread of the virus. So it is recommended that with COVID-19 transmission, mainly spreading between people through direct and indirect contact, washing hands with soap and running water is of critical importance. So it says that hand washing is very important. Then next one, with title of The Power of Hand Washing to Prevent Coronavirus, with the reference from the statement of Elizabeth Scott, which is um, doctorate with doctorate degree. Then Scott co-directs the Center for Hygiene and Health author. So it says that you can't necessarily control what you touch. You can't control who else touch it, but you can look after your own hands. So this implies that we should avoid touching surfaces when it is not really needed or when it is not important. So we should refrain from touching surfaces. So it is recommended that hand washing with soap and water is far more powerful weapon against germs than many of us realize. Then it also said that soap can break COVID's lipid envelope fat apart and make the virus unable to infect you. So the main point here is that frequent hand washing really helps in fighting COVID-19 virus. So let's proceed to the next one.
So for the hand washing limitations, Bayani.
So for the hand washing limitations, based on the uh, stud uh, literature of hand washing an effective tool to prevent COVID-19 and other diseases, it is found that in 2013, they found out that 3,700 people, only 5% of them followed all the rules of hand washing. Most of them are using the splash and dash method, and about 1 in 10 didn't wash their hands at all after their trip to the restroom. Only 5% spend more than 15 seconds on hand washing, rubbing, and rinsing their hands. So, their recommendation is that numerous studies have found that bacteria can stay on bar soap that stays wet because it gets used frequently. So, it is also recommended that disinfect your hands by rubbing at least 20 seconds according to the CDC, the same amount of time it takes to sing a happy birthday twice. And based on the statement of Elizabeth Scott, if you can't wash, if you can't wash, reach for some hand sanitizer because lipid membranes viruses like coronaviruses are killed by alcohol-based hand sanitizer. It is also noted that it should be at least 62% alcohol. So, its recommendation, make sure to use enough so that it covers all your surfaces on your hands and rub it until about 20 seconds, and most of the time the alcohol solutions available to the market is enough to disinfect your hands since it is about 70% alcohol solution.
So for automated disinfection as our alternative, so the researchers considered hand disinfection machine ideas from a lot of authors, specifically this one. So as we can see in public places, disinfection spray are used to disinfect hands. So we have sprayers, okay, which each person takes in your hand and disinfects himself. So the problem here is that they are still having some contacts to the disinfection sprayer, and in that case there is always a possibility of transmission because there is contact. So this is a problem because if someone is infected with COVID-19 virus and he touched the sprayer, there is a high risk of transmission of the virus by people to another people. So for our recommendation, for their recommendation, um, they will be using a distance sensor wherein it reads when someone moves their hands toward the device. So we'll be considering that idea in our prototype. So when the hands are close enough, the sensor detects a proximity, okay? Then a sprayer, or let's say our machine, will be firing or will be emitting disinfection for the hands, okay, in a matter of seconds, okay? That will be set by uh, the operator of the machine. So then, so the device shuts itself off, okay, and waits for the next person who wants to disinfect their hands. So that's where automation takes place, which is the role of the electronics engineers, okay? So next one, the researchers will also be considering fogging for the machine, if possible, because findings said that fogging uses an antiviral disinfectant solution which cleans and sanitizes large areas of a building quickly and effectively. And if it can sanitize large areas and building, then it can also sanitize our hands, okay, which is the primary cause of transmission of the virus when one is infected. So the recommendation is an electrostatic broad spectrum antimicrobial spray. That could be an option, okay? And electrostatic spray, which uses a specialty solution, okay, that is combined with air and atomized by an electrode inside the sprayer. So those are the recommendations that the researcher proponents consider for this project. Mhm. Mhm. So for the next one, we'll be having the automated machine for disinfection. So for the title, we have hand disinfection machine. So for their content, they demonstrated that a soap and water hand washing station is um, already in some places, okay? The design consists of a single unit that can replace existing usage of sinks, okay? So here on our research project, we'll be promoting automation. So we'll not be using anymore. We'll not be uh we'll be pushing people or we'll be persuading people to consider our machine instead of using sinks, okay? Instead of using soap dispensers and the hand dispensers technology. So we'll be promoting automation here. So the contactless unit controlled every function of the hand washing process via MCU and infrared sensors. So here in our project, we'll be considering ultrasonic sensors and infrared sensors to sense the hands. Okay, for the recommendation, this machine will be fully automated. Okay, and we'll be considering mist as our medium of sprayer. Okay, and we'll also be considering a specific duration of time for the disinfection process. So for the fogging machine designs, um, they also showed some ideas like fog fumigation, okay? And they also uh, suggest some ideas like the use of Internet of Things, okay, technology for the automation of the disinfection machines. Okay, so the researchers will be considering that as well. So they also recommended PAA dry fogging, okay, which is used for SARS-CoV virus 2 patients. So we'll be considering some automated ideas from IoT, which will be focusing not just on the COVID-19 virus, but the disinfection of hands, okay, to prevent the transmission. So some more researchers, okay, uh, high-tech hand washing stations ideas from the international countries. So we have here uh, a high-tech hand washing station that kills 99% of harmful pathogens could become a common fixture in the future. So since the COVID-19 pandemic started in 2020, some companies already required some hand disinfection machines. So that is a possibility, okay? The future will be uh, depending on that already. So we also have here some statements saying by automating the process, like so many other automations that we have throughout our life, is that you're really being able to change the behavior. We aim to change the behavior. So we'll be automating the process, okay? Being able to give you a scientific process very quickly, okay? That's our role as electronics engineer, to make things convenient for people to quickly do what they need to do very easily, okay? If efficiency, of course, every single time. So, but due to the pandemic, public places like malls, schools, and restaurants are paying increased attention to hygiene guidance. Okay, you cannot enter an establishment without COVID-19 vaccine, and you cannot enter without disinfecting your hands without your mask. So nowadays it's a must. Okay, so I think it is a machine. According to Stanley, the 2020, I think he said that I think it is a machine that people will start to see more in public now than that the pandemic is here. So hand disinfection machines will be a common fixture in the future. So according to Stanley, he added, we certainly want to minimize traffic to the bathroom. So that's one factor as well why the researchers consider this idea. So they need to minimize the traffic in the bathroom wherein people uses soap and water to wash their hands. So that's a little bit messy and it consumes a lot of time by the people. And uh, establishments need to observe social distancing. So this is really a convenient, okay? This is really a convenient idea for establishments, okay, to promote hand hygiene while continuing their business process. And Stanley added that they also wanted it to be really front and center, okay? And something easy that people could do. So that's the aim of the researchers, to make hand hygiene an easy thing to do so people can do it most of the time. So for the chapter 3,
So for our research methodology, it is the specific procedures or techniques used to identify or to analyze information about a topic. So for our in our research paper, first we have it is to design a hand washing machine for a automated disinfection using controller system. And second, the researchers will select appropriate controller system for the disinfection machine in order to work according to its indicated function of automation. And lastly is that we will be considering a university-wide study which includes students, if possible, and other personnels in DLSUD or the De La Salle University, Dasmariñas. So the methodology section allows the reader to critically evaluate our study overall.
So after that, we will be proceeding to methodological framework. So methodological framework is the guide that we will be using whether to in order to complete or on how we will be executing the process involving the completion of the research or study. So as we can see in the picture in the right are the framework or guide that we will be using in order to finish the study. So first one is very important, planning and researching. So every project or every study needs to have proper planning. So it starts with a plan. So planning involves choosing the appropriate materials and components and profound understanding of concepts and ideas for the project. So it is important that the researchers should plan the things that they are doing when it comes to their research, such as the materials and the components that is best fit for this project. Then next one is gathering of materials and components. So before we proceed that, we should take note that in planning and researching, it takes time because we don't want to be unprepared or unknowledgeable or doesn't know what we were doing when it comes to the research. So researchers take time in planning and researching about disinfection machines, microcontrollers, and COVID-19. So the reference can be journals, articles, and books online. So let's proceed. Gathering of materials and components. So it involves collection of suited materials that the researchers will be using for the study, specifically in building the prototype of the disinfection machine. So like I've said earlier that the researchers should plan and gather materials that is best fit for the prototype of the machine. So let's proceed to the next one. Next slide, please. Then let's proceed to hardware and system development. So this part of the methodological framework is quite complex because it involves the programming and the hardware involved for the prototype. So hardware and system development involves the preparation and checking of the components for the prototype, while in system development includes the programming of the microcontroller to function as planned. Then we will be using the Atmega microcontroller and Arduinos are likely considered for the automation of the machine. Then construction of the prototype. So it is important that we would come to the construction of the prototype in order to gather results. Then testing and if observing is very important as well because in here we will be able to gather data in which would help for the result of the study. So testing and observing of the prototype will be performed. This involves multiple use of the prototype to determine if the machine is working properly or working for its purpose. Then for the last is evaluation, which will be discussed later on.
So for the collection of materials, these are simply the raw materials that we will be needing for our research. So the researchers will be using a microcontroller for the prototype device of the automated disinfection machine. The microcontroller will be programmed to function as planned by the researchers. So basically, it is important to know what we will be using in our prototype. So these are the list of materials and components that we will be needing. So we have a microcontroller or Arduino, fog maker, water tank, LCD display, DC fan, keypad, piping, supporting frame, buttons and switches, screws and bolts, resistor, capacitors, diodes, ICs, transistors, connectors, and lastly is the PCB. So it is these are the materials in order to complete the said prototype. Next,
So for the schematic of the system, for this one, as we can see, uh, the contaminated hands is being detected by the sensor, and the data uh, produces by the sensor is sent to the microcontroller, which it will process on what uh, the sensor or the value of the sensor is being detected, or if the hands is inserted into the machine, then the microcontroller will process it to disperse the disinfectant, which is, as said here, is the fog machine with disinfectant, and it will disperse to the hand, thus creating a result of disinfected hands.
So now for the prototype block diagram, we'll be considering a regulated power supply, okay? Or better, we'll be considering a cordless power supply, okay, to make the machine more convenient, okay? And then we'll be considering a microcontroller. It could be a Mega, Arduino, or anything that will be effective. We'll be discussing it in our latter chapters. And then we'll be considering IR or ultrasonic sensor to sense the hands, okay, by the machine. And then we'll be considering to LCD driver as well as LCD to display, okay, the operation of the machine. Will also be displaying here the time duration, okay, of its operation. We can we will also be using control buttons to control the time, okay, the time operation of the machine, okay. It could be, then we will also be using relay driver, okay, and mist maker, as well as LED indicators for the operation. So next one for the operation of equipment, Bayani.
So, for the operation of the equipment in this study, the machine composes of sensors, microcontroller, and a mist machine, that will help to disinfect the hands of people who are going to use the machine. So, these components are essential in able to create this prototype. To use this machine, the user should place their hands inside the machine to enable to disinfect their hands. So for the next step, the machine will detect the hands if it is inside the machine. The data produced by the sensor is read by the microcontroller. Thus, the microcontroller will know what instructions should it gives for the disinfectant and the fog machine or the machine that uses to disperse the disinfectant. And then the user will wait for few seconds in able to machine to work. It means that this time it will release a mist or it will release a disinfectant in which it disinfects the hands inside the machine. So the user may rotate their hands to fully cover or fully disinfect their hands. After a few seconds of releasing disinfectant, the machine will stop releasing the disinfectant. Then the hands are already disinfected.
So for the machine characteristics, obviously it will disinfect hands and contactless matter. Okay, and then it is designed for every people so that every hands will fit in the hose of the machine. So it will also feature automated disinfection, which is the goal of the project to make it automated. So basically, as what we've said earlier, it will be using a sensor to detect if the hand is inserted in the machine to release disinfectant. Okay, this detection and releasing of disinfectant will be controlled by a microcontroller. Okay, so it will be releasing the disinfectant within a specified time as well. And then hand washing machine can accommodate a wide range of establishments such as commercial, industrial, and many more.
So for the evaluation of the machine's effectiveness, which is included in the last of the methodological framework, the researchers would hand out surveys to those who use the machine. Then evaluation sheets of the project will be given to selected respondents from a sample of students, considering the huge number of students in the La Salle University, Las Marinas campus. Also, responses from the instructors, security, and utility personnel will be highly considered to assess the impact or effectiveness of the project. So that's it.
So for our machine prototype sketch, okay, this will be the possible sketch of our prototype. So this is the top view wherein the LED display is seen and the button as well. Okay, we'll be considering different designs of buttons, but for the meantime, the researchers is viewing the prototype as this one possible, and then this is the side view with the hands. Okay, and this is the rear the other side, okay, the other side view of our prototype sketch. So for our machine prototype sketch model, this is the front view, okay, with the hands and with the label. And then this is also the machine prototype sketch model top view, okay. So we're viewing this as this one, but it can change, okay, in accordance to some adjustments with the design, okay, considered by the proponents or by the researchers in accordance to what would be the more efficient, okay, and more effective design of the prototype of the machine, okay. Then we also have here the side views, okay, for more reference, for more visualization. And for our statistical analysis, uh, we mentioned a while ago that we'll be handling out survey forms to selected students and professors and staff and the university. So these people will be selected, okay, will be selected using the uh, using the Lubin's formula to make sure that enough number of samples, okay, of sample respondents will be considered, and will be able to answer, okay, to answer the surveys, and these people, okay, will be this people will be using the machine, and their responses will be considered for the assessment or the evaluation of the machine's performance inside the university if the premises will allow. Okay, so with our research project, okay, this will not just this will not just automate the hand disinfection that we usually and normally do as our hand hygiene, but it can also help a lot of business establishments, okay, a lot of business establishments to continue their business operations amidst the pandemic, okay, because hand hygiene is really important nowadays. And this can also help a lot of hospitals, a lot of commercial industries, okay? Because hand hygiene is really essential. Actually, not just in the pandemic season, but in our everyday lives. So, with the thesis project and with the project proposal, the researchers aim to empower and to promote hand hygiene in the Filipinos, and we are all calling the Filipinos
to do our social responsibility,
Disinfect your hands.
Prevent the transmission.
and lastly, okay, which is the goal of everyone worldwide, is to stop the coronavirus pandemic. So again, I'm Rica May Escasabuena with my thesis research members, co-members.
May Jim Wale and Fabian.
Jose Alvaro II.
and I'm Queen Mary Angel.
Saying thank you, and I hope we'll be all doing our social responsibility, which is to wash our hands. So that's our thesis project presentation. We hope you learned a lot, and uh, you learned a lot from our thesis project proposal. So thank you, and may God bless us all.